Hey guys, and welcome to The Broken Sword. Saruman the White was the head of the Order of the Astari, the group of 5 wizards sent to Middle-earth in the Third Age to help in the fight against Sauron. He was also the head of the White Council, a group consisting of Saruman, Gandalf, Galadriel, and Elrond. Another group that existed with the purpose of opposing the Dark Lord. So how did Saruman end up becoming so corrupt? How did he become practically a puppet of Sauron's? What went so wrong? Let's find out.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
So it was not until Sauron was defeated in the Battle of the Last Alliance that Manwë, leader of the Valar, called a meeting in Valinor after it was discovered that Sauron was not fully vanquished and his shadow was once again beginning to spread over Middle-earth. They decided they would send 5 emissaries to Middle-earth to stand against Sauron. These 5 would be mighty peers of Sauron, yet forego might and clothe themselves in flesh. The Astari, as they became known as, were forbidden from matching Sauron in power, as they were afraid they would also become feared by the people of Middle-earth, just as Sauron was. The other 4, of course, were Elorin, later known as Gandalf, Eowendil, later Radagast, and Alatar and Pallando, the Blue Wizards. The 5 wizards arrived in Middle-earth at the Grey Havens around the year 1000 of the Third Age. Only Círdan the Shipwright knew of their true identity and origins, and despite knowing that Saruman was the leader, Círdan gave the Elven Ring of Power Narya to Gandalf upon their arrival. Saruman's jealousy of Gandalf most likely started with these events. He also feared that Gandalf would one day be able to replace him as the leader of the Order. The White Council was then formed in the year 2463 of the Third Age, and Saruman was appointed its leader, although Galadriel apparently wanted Gandalf in that position. It was around this time that Saruman had started to sense the resurgence in the Dark Lord's power, and he began to envy it, especially the One Ring, since he had dedicated many years of his life studying the Rings of Power. Saruman also made note of Gandalf's fascination with the hobbits and the Shire, believing that it was in some way part of his plans for self-enhancement, maybe even a way to try and get ahead as the leader of the Astari. He began keeping a closer eye on Gandalf, and even sent spies to the Shire, occasionally even visiting there himself. However, after a few visits, he began to start going there for another reason. He had secretly started enjoying the halfling's pipeweed, something that Gandalf had also been smoking. In 2759, Saruman settled in Isengard with the permission of the then Steward of Gondor, and by being based there, had placed himself in a very important position in the defence of the west of Middle-earth. He also found one of the remaining Seeing Stones, or Palantir, in the Tower of Orthanc, an item that would go on to play a huge part in his corruption and downfall. Around 100 years later, Gandalf entered Dol Guldur, and it was confirmed that the evil power there was indeed Sauron. Following Saruman's advice, the White Council decided against attacking Dol Guldur right away. Gandalf would later state that it was at this council meeting that he first began to suspect that Saruman was after the One Ring for himself. However, his true and of course secret intentions were to let Sauron rebuild his strength in hopes that the One Ring would eventually reveal itself. Eventually, of course, Saruman agreed to attack Dol Guldur, which was successful in driving Sauron out. But 10 years later, he would return to Mordor and openly declare himself. Sauron then reached out to Saruman using another one of the Palantir that was discovered after his armies conquered Minas Ithil, now known as Minas Morgul. The White Wizard lost the conquest of Will with the Dark Lord and became a servant of Sauron. He was officially no longer opposing Sauron, but desired his victory, though he secretly still desired the One Ring for himself. In preparation for war, Saruman gathered a mighty army of orcs, Uruk-hai, half-orcs, wild men, and wolves within Isengard, still keeping up the facade of being in full service of Sauron, while at the same time searching the One Ring for himself, and still convincing everyone else, including the White Council, that he was on their side and opposing Sauron, somewhat of a triple agent at this point. Little did he know that his master was already well aware of his thoughts. When Gandalf later went to Saruman with the discovery and location of the One Ring, Saruman revealed his desire for it and his allegiance to Sauron. He tried to convince Gandalf to join them, which was of course unsuccessful, so he was forced to keep Gandalf prisoner in Isengard, but he eventually escaped with the help of Gwaihir the Eagle and informed the rest of the White Council of Saruman's betrayal. It was here that Saruman really lost his way. Believing that he would no longer find pity or favour from either side, he chose to put all of his efforts into finding the One Ring for himself. He attempted many things in order to do this, sending spies to waylay Frodo on his journey from the Shire, sending orcs to attack Rohan directly, and dispatching groups of Uruk-hai to routes that the Fellowship would likely be taking. It was of course one of these Uruk packs that captured Merry and Pippin and killed Boromir. It was actually this exact event that ironically led Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli on a search that ultimately led to the Battle of Helm's Deep, the battle where Saruman lost the majority of his armies. And after escaping their capture, it was Merry and Pippin that basically caused the destruction of Isengard by the Ents, leading to Sauron losing one of his most powerful allies. I'm using the term ally very loosely here, and ended Saruman's reign of terror for good. So technically, Saruman accidentally caused his own downfall. He would later convince the Ents that were holding him captive in his own tower to let him go after he handed over the keys to Orthanc. He would then go straight to the Shire, disguised as a criminal master named Sharky. He eventually was overthrown in the Battle of Bywater, but even though Frodo confronted him and exiled him from the Shire, he had his throat cut by Grima Wormtongue, right on the doorstep of Bag End. A random interesting fact I'll throw your way here is that after Saruman departed from Orthanc, King Elessar entered. Here he discovered many hidden treasures that the wizard had possessed and collected. In a secret closet discovered by Gimli, they found the Elendilmere, which was the Star of Elendil, a jewel made from mithril which was thought to be lost when Isildur was killed. Aragorn took this back to Minas Tirith and wore it on special occasions. In the same cabinet they also found a golden chain which was presumed to have once bore the One Ring itself, something that was likely a very important treasure to Saruman, who was completely obsessed with the Rings of Power. Saruman is such a unique and interesting character when it comes to Middle-earth. His skill, power and knowledge was great, but his deep study and obsession over the Rings of Power corrupted him. His overwhelming lust for power, mainly through possession of the One Ring, ultimately led to his downfall. He is one of the only characters in Middle-earth that sort of stays in a morally grey area, as he's not actually a genuine servant for either evil or good. He only trusts himself, and all of his motivations are completely selfish and only aimed at satisfying his own goals. I really hope you guys enjoyed this little delve into Saruman's past and motivations. My question for you guys today is this: how do you think things would have played out if Saruman had truly been loyal to Sauron, having no personal goals, no will of his own, just a desire to help the Dark Lord conquer Middle-earth, being a servant more like the Witch King? Let us know what you think would be different in the comments down below. As always guys, time has come to thank our patrons. We could not do this without your support. For those of you that have been waiting and asking, there are some huge changes coming to our Patreon soon. Not with what we're spending the money on, as that is of course still going towards our film, but with the gifts and benefits that you guys receive. We've been doing a little bit of market research to see what you guys would be interested in, and we'll be making those changes very, very soon. Finally, don't forget that the Tabletop Alliance is going under a full rebrand at the moment. We've just launched a web store where you can pick up some of our custom minis. They'll hopefully be either weekly or every other week releases on there, so check those out if you're interested at thetabletopalliance.co.uk. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.